Hello, welcome back to another episode of Eat Well, Feel Well. I am your host, Dr. Brittany Panico. I am a board certified rheumatologist in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and I'm so excited to have you join us. If you are new to the show or to my weekly recipes, welcome. If you are a returning guest, welcome as well. And this is a place where I share recipes that are focused around the anti-inflammatory principles of really digging into whole, nutritious food and ingredients to steer away from packaged products and refined carbohydrates and sugars. And the goal of that really being to see how adding back nutrition into our body helps us feel better and combat inflammatory conditions, inflammation, and just be healthier overall. If you're somebody looking to improve your gut health, if you feel bloated on a regular basis, if you feel over full when you eat, if you're somebody who maybe has a reaction to certain foods and you're trying to decipher, do you have a food sensitivity, then this channel, these videos are wonderful for you, and I hope that you can use them as tools to identify what types of food triggers you may have, because when we are empowered to make really good decisions about what we put into our body, then ultimately that translates into feeling better and just being more aware of our health overall. So I am so glad to have you join me. And today we are going to talk about a salmon recipe from one of my new favorite cookbooks. I talked about this cookbook recently, but Eat Better, Feel Better from Giada. And I have my little bookmark here for today. And her cookbook has just really jumped out at me because it's fresh ingredients. Her pictures are beautiful. The way she has composed this cookbook is really lovely. And I'm just really excited to share these recipes with you because I think that for a lot of chefs and, celebrity chefs that we may know of from things like the Food Network or, on TV shows, we sort of follow along with those recipes because they're featuring something that is maybe trendy or from their own restaurant and not necessarily understanding how that works in our own bodies. And there's really more information becoming available. We're talking about it more, about what food actually does to our body, and then how that portrays into our longevity. And, really bringing the focus back again to whole foods, good, nutritious vegetables and food sources that steer clear of refined products, chemically, enhanced ingredients. And of course, all of that stuff is what we love, right? We've become essentially addicted to the dopamine that sugar gives us, but we can also learn how to crave good quality food and nutritious ingredients as well. So that's what I hope to bring to you. So today I'm going to feature this salmon recipe that myself and my husband made last night. And it is going to really insert itself into our weekly routine because, as a lot of you know, I have a family and I talk about the ease of these recipes, making them easy for busy families to incorporate. And then also, what's the likelihood that our kids are going to eat this food, right? So we've started baseball season. I have 2 kids playing baseball, and we are just in this cycle of games and practice, and really, on the go and evenings are a struggle. So this recipe is awesome because it took probably 30 minutes from start to finish, and it's easy to clean up. There's not a whole lot of, skill involved. I really want to make things accessible to everyone. If you don't necessarily feel that you have skills to cook, this is a place that you can learn and experiment and develop those skills. So these recipes do not require any kind of fancy tools, and they're also, ingredients that we can find in the grocery store. If you shop at a local, neighborhood Walmart marketplace, these ingredients are there. I will say with salmon and fish products, these are ingredients that I tend to sort of advocate that you pay a little bit more attention to where you buy them, because particularly with fish, lately, we want to steer clear of high mercury containing fish. And then also just be cognizant of how those fish are raised. Are they, farmed fish or wild caught? We kind of hear those terms. So just being a little bit cognizant about where your food is coming from also, because the likelihood that they've been exposed to antibiotics or that they may be, again, in high mercury environments. So with salmon, if you have the ability to go to a fish market or somewhere where you can actually have somebody help you identify what is a good, clean, cut of fish and learn how to pick these products out, I really encourage you to take the time and maybe do that. Meet with a fish market or somebody who works with actually, cutting these fish, because they can tell you what's fresh. They can tell you what slices are more fatty, less fatty, the quality of the fish. When we think about fish, a lot of people get nervous or scared about the smell, the fishy smell, right? We've all overcooked fish. We all kind of know what that fishy smell is. But if we cook fish properly, if we really take the time and purchase a good quality piece of fish and learn how not to overcook it, we can actually make these meals without having our whole house smell like fish. So now that the weather is hopefully warming up for a lot of people, if that smell does start to disseminate throughout your kitchen, you can also open a window or turn on your vent hood fan. Those are some tips to sort of waft out that fishy smell. But overall, broiling fish or even grilling fish, you can really make a tasty meal without having so much of that fishy smell. So let's get right into why salmon is a power food. Salmon is a really, really healthy fish for us to eat because it's filled with so many really powerful ingredients. And the most common one that we think of is the omega-3s, right? We think about omega-3 fatty acids and DHA as products that we can't make ourselves. Our body has to get those from somewhere or something. So when we think about what fish oil supplements are, or what, omega-3 products are rich in omega-3s, fish is definitely high on that list. And you can also get vegan supplements as well, but it's natural from fish, those omega-3 fatty acids. And those are really helpful for not only cardiovascular health, they're important for eye health, they're really important for our brain function and establishing, good, healthy nerve connections. And then also they help make our skin look nice and shiny and glowing and healthy. So if you have a deficiency or you're not getting enough fatty acids, then again, supplements are helpful, but you can also just start eating a little bit more fish, start adding a little bit more into your diet over time, and your body will naturally absorb those ingredients or those nutritious benefits. It's not recommended that you eat fish every single day because, again, we want to be cognizant of where the fish is coming from and the mercury content. But for the most part, an average person, if you have a 3 to 4 ounce serving of fish, which is basically a little bit bigger maybe than your fist, or about the size of your fist, I should say, then you can do that up to about 3 to 4 days a week. So, again, fish coming from wild caught is a little bit cleaner, so to speak, but fish a few days a week should be okay for most people. As many of you may be aware, so I do consider myself a gout specialist. I have a very high interest in treating gout patients, and a lot of times we think about fish as being dangerous for gout. That's actually not true for all fish, and salmon is one of those that actually can be beneficial or healthy for patients even if you're struggling with gout. So if you do have that diagnosis and you are being treated for gout, I don't necessarily want to steer you clear from fish entirely, but again, have that conversation with your healthcare provider because your diet can affect how your gout may play out for you. So I don't provide medical advice on this show, but Again, I do want to just be cognizant about a lot of the conditions that a rheumatologist is going to see and treat, because that's my day job. So, and salmon is also really high in antioxidants. So we've talked before about the antioxidants, or the chemicals that give food its color. So things that have more color are going to have higher antioxidants, and those are typically more flavonoid, things that give something a pink or a red hue. So much like vegetables that are red, berries, bell peppers, tomatoes, things like that. So salmon is high in antioxidants within its actual color of the fish itself. Salmon is an excellent source for B vitamins. So people who struggle with maintaining B12 levels, salmon actually, about a 3 to 4 ounce serving of salmon can give you 100% of your daily vitamin B12. So that's really awesome news if you're somebody who gets B12 injections or who has to take a B12 supplement, because you can also incorporate, again, natural occurring B12 that your body is going to know how to absorb into your diet by adding salmon once or twice a week, or as often as you feel like you can. If it's twice a month, that's even, that's fine too. And then we kind of talked about the omega-3s and heart health. Salmon is also an excellent fish if you're somebody who's watching your weight, trying to lose weight or maintain weight loss that you've already achieved. So the high protein content in salmon is really excellent at keeping us full, making us feel fuller, faster, and for longer periods of time. So you may find that if you have salmon for dinner, you're not necessarily looking for that dessert. And again, that's a tool that is helpful for weight management. So if you're being cognizant about your weight, salmon is an excellent source of protein and can be beneficial in helping maintain a healthy weight, or even if you're trying to, if you're on a weight loss program. So those are some of the beneficial things about salmon. It's also a great source of calcium, potassium, all those great vitamins and minerals. So I really do encourage you to, if you're not a big salmon eater, try this recipe, because I think you're gonna like it. And it may change your taste for salmon. A lot of people don't necessarily know to ask, or are uncomfortable about what to do with the skin, the salmon skin. So I have eaten it, and also I don't eat it. It sort of just depends on the recipe. It depends on how the fish is prepared. If it's crispy, sometimes it's more appetizing. If it's more mushy, sometimes it's not. So I say leave it up to you. If you want it, then you can certainly eat it. There's no harm in eating it. If you don't want it, then you don't have to. It's not a critical part of the salmon itself. So it's one of those, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And then also just a little tidbit about fish. Be careful if you do eat a bone. So swallowing fish bones can be very harmful and hurt. So when you do make a fish recipe, if you don't outwardly see a bone right as you're cutting through it, really take the time to chew and savor those bites, because you may find a bone here and there. So last night when my husband was making this recipe, he was tweezing out bones with a tool. So, just something to be aware of. And generally you can see them when you're cooking it, or they kind of pop to the surface after you're cooking or broiling fish. So just be aware of that, just a little tidbit. You don't want to swallow a fish bone on accident. And they're generally not very big compared to other fish bones, but again, it's still a possibility. So I will post a picture, as always, about what my recipe looks like, because I do modify them, and I'm very open about how I modify these recipes. I will talk about that with you. But this is the picture from the book. As I've mentioned before, I tend to be drawn to recipes that have pictures. But again, I will feature recipes down the road that don't have pictures. So it's always, a surprise of what it's going to look like. But this recipe really jumped out at me because, again, this cookbook, her photos are beautiful, and I just think this is a very appetizing looking plate. And I have fish on hand, and so I just thought this would be a really nice kind of spring dinner, and again, a quick meal that we can whip up, you know, after practice, after baseball. So the recipe is broiled salmon with crushed broccoli. And if you've listened to, you know, a few of these videos, you know broccoli is one of my superfoods. It's something that I really incorporate a lot in my cooking. My kids love broccoli. I've made broccoli, I don't know how many ways, 50 different ways, and still thinking of new ways to cook broccoli. So anytime we get a chance to add in broccoli, that's a win for me. And this one in particular is a combination of kind of rustic mashed potatoes and broccoli mixed together. And I just found it so appealing and appetizing. Just taking that bite along with the salmon was great. It was a wonderful dinner after a very long day. So again, I encourage you to try this recipe. So just to kind of go through things, how it's made. So the ingredients are, she calls for a Yukon Gold potato. I picked sweet potato because there's additional benefits to eating sweet potato. We'll feature, you know, some other recipes with sweet potato, but I happen to prefer sweet potatoes over traditional white potatoes. But again, that's my preference. If you are not a sweet potato person, then this recipe actually is for white potatoes. So you peel it, cut it into kind of small cubes like you're gonna make mashed potatoes, and then you actually cook it for a few minutes previous to adding the broccoli. So then broccoli can be fresh, it can be frozen. I had already broccoli cut up. I just buy it in a big bag from Costco, and we just throw it into recipes when we want it. So about 2 broccoli crowns, so that's about 1 pound total is what this recipe calls for, and roughly chop them into like 1/2-inch pieces. So if you're somebody that likes smaller pieces already, you might want to cut them down. If you happen to like bigger chunks, you can leave them chunkier. Again, this is all developing your preferences. So experiment a little bit with how you like things cooked and how big of bites or diced vegetables you like. And then extra virgin olive oil. She calls for Calabrian chili paste. I found this chili paste from Trader Joe's, and my Italian husband cannot get enough of it. He puts this stuff on everything. It is so good. And it's actually fermented chilies, which I like because that adds extra benefits for our gut bacteria. So if you are a Trader Joe's fan or have one near you, this chili paste, again, I have no ties to Trader Joe's, but this is a staple in my household, and it's actually pretty healthy for, again, a packaged item. So 60 calories for a serving of 2 tablespoons. So not bad for a chili paste. So I will feature a picture of this, but it's Italian Bamba hot pepper sauce, and this is Calabrian chilies. And Giada traditionally cooks with an Italian background. And then keeping on with the recipe, some salt, sea salt, kosher salt, however you use your salt. And then for the fish, she uses vegetable oil cooking spray. So again, you can drizzle on vegetable oil, or if you don't necessarily want to use an aerosolized cooking spray, I put some in a little bowl with one of those basters, like a brush, and then just lightly coat it. So you want to get a very light layer of vegetable or of cooking oil. It's also to keep it from sticking to the pan. And then she uses 4 skinless center cut salmon fillets, about 5 ounces each. This recipe is a serving for 4. I did not make that much salmon, but I just used, again, what I had. So it does not have to be exact. Salt, grated lemon zest, olive oil, and then lemon wedges for serving afterwards. So to quickly go through this recipe, you chop and boil the potatoes for a few minutes until they're a little bit tender. When you pierce them with a fork, just takes a few minutes on high. And then add the broccoli, boil for about another 4 to 5 minutes. Again, this goes pretty quick. And then when the stems are tender, you're good to go. Drain the vegetables, put them in a bowl, and then just roughly mash them along with the olive oil, the chili paste, and some salt. So again, it's very rustic, a quick mash with either a potato masher or a whisk, and you just kind of combine everything, get it all nice and mixed together, and then keep it warm while you're cooking the salmon. If you can do both things at the same time, then it goes even faster. So you arrange the salmon on a baking sheet and sprinkle with salt and lemon zest, and then rub the fillets with olive oil. Again, you can just lightly coat them. It does not have to be, big drizzles. You don't want it to be soggy per se, and you want it to be evenly coated on the salmon. That's what really makes it, that kind of crisp, really nice texture, is to have it evenly coated so that you don't have areas that are more oil heavy than others. And then you broil. So again, we're not baking it, we're broiling it for 6 to 8 minutes. And generally that's done on the top rack of your oven closest to the heat. If you have, a heating rack on the top of your oven, and it happens very quickly. I have definitely burned things before. So just be cognizant if you're used to baking and not using the broiling setting. Broiling is high heat very quickly, and you have a risk of charring your meal. So just keep an eye out. You can kind of start to smell it cooking too, but 6 to 8 minutes is all it takes. Fish cooks very fast compared to something like chicken or other lean meats. So that's another plus with using this as, a weeknight dinner, is because it's going to go pretty quickly. So you just want it to be lightly golden brown on the top. It'll sort of have that shimmer texture to it. And again, I'll show you a picture of what mine looked like last night. And the meat itself should be kind of soft, and the shade of the pinkness should change. So it shouldn't be that bright sort of raw color anymore. It should turn more of a lighter pinkish color with a little bit of white that sort of bubbles up. So the fat from the salmon is actually going to sort of surface, and within the grooves of the meat or the muscle, you can actually see that sort of coming together. So that's again another clue that the salmon is properly cooked. If you do happen to use a thicker cut of salmon and it's not quite done when you cut into it and it still looks raw, you can always slip it back under the broiler for another few minutes. Again, just be aware, 2-minute increments at a time, because it will go very fast. So ultimately, get that salmon nice and golden brown on the top. It's gonna smell so good. And then to serve it, you just scoop up, a scoop of that broccoli potato mixture, and then place your salmon on top, and, drizzle a little bit of lemon juice if you like on the top. My husband added red chili flakes to the salmon, just a little bit, to give it a little bit more spice. Again, you don't necessarily have to. This chili paste, it is pretty spicy, but you can sort of add a little bit extra to the salmon if you prefer. And I just have to say, this recipe was very excellent. So it's gonna be one of our favorites for sure. And again, it goes by really fast. I mean, the most tedious part is just getting those vegetables, potatoes cooked. So the salmon is very quick to cook, and then you can enjoy your dinner and feel really good about what you made, because this is a super healthy meal with a lot of flavor. I can't even begin to tell you what that combination of, the potato and broccoli and then the salmon all in one bite was so good. Another couple modifications that I thought of as I was, deciding how to talk about modifications. If you don't have broccoli, one of the sort of staple food items that I grew up on is mashed potatoes and peas. I don't know if you've had that mixture before, but my mom and grandma used to make mashed potatoes with peas and cheese melted on the top. So if you're somebody who likes that flavor combination, you can combine peas with mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes. You can do Again, the broccoli with sweet potato versus white potato, you can decide on different variations of potatoes. Just again, kind of see what you like, what your family likes, and use what you have on hand. If you don't necessarily have, something on hand, then you can just substitute it with what you do have. Cauliflower is a substitute, a good, decent substitute for potato, but the cauliflower broccoli kind of combination might be a little bit too mushy per se. So if you do substitute the potato with cauliflower, then maybe use another hearty vegetable along with that. You could use asparagus. Again, this meal, the principles of this meal can be used with endless combinations of potato, cauliflower, broccoli, asparagus, all sorts of things. So get creative in how you divvy up the ingredients, and then take a look at what's on sale at your grocery store. If you head to the store with this recipe in mind, but something else is on sale, then pick that. By all means, you can modify and just, again, use these flavor combinations as a guide. So, and again, that chili paste on the fish, in the vegetable mixture just really adds a whole nother level of flavor. So I really hope that you'll give this a try. Grill your salmon if you're somewhere where you can grill outside. If you like the idea of baked salmon, you can bake it. It's just gonna take a little bit longer than broiling it. And again, really watch the time of how long you stick it under the broiler. So again, see what works for you, see what flavor combinations you like, and rotate those out. So thank you so much for joining me this week for Eat Well, Feel Well. I know we went through things a little bit quickly, but I want to make these recipes accessible and something doable for everyone. So weeknight cooking does not have to be so tedious and so much of a chore anymore. We can have really delicious, nutritious meals in not a lot of time, and again, inexpensively. So these things are accessible to everyone. And again, the recipe that I'm featuring is from Giada's cookbook, Eat Better, Feel Better. I will post this. And if you have a chance to actually look through this cookbook, give it some time. She has some wonderful recipes. We're gonna continue to go through them as we go along through this series. And I hope that this is just something you can add to your recipe bank and keep adding these meals. And as we go through the next couple months, you're gonna have enough for 2 weeks of meal planning. It'll all be planned out for you, and you'll have tried the recipes and know which ones you like. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me. I love seeing so many familiar names pop up on the live stream today, and I hope you'll share with a friend or a colleague or anyone that you feel would benefit from hearing about these recipes. Feel free to share these videos. So thank you for joining me. We'll see you again next week for another episode of Eat Well, Feel Well. Hope you all have a wonderful week and take care. Bye-bye.